Follow us on Twitter for news updates and audio. Find us at twitter.com/News New Mexico.
Launch control, this is Houston. We are go for launch.
Hold on to your lug nuts. It's time for an overhaul.
Turn it up, son.
I'm your huckleberry.
I don't give jobs, I hire men. You won't give me anything, and I won't give you anything.
Collision, sir.
Whoa, relax. We're not even moving.
There's no crying in baseball.
Live and statewide, we're News New Mexico. It's Tuesday, October 9th. I'm Michael Swickard. We got Bob Endlich here. Jerry Harden's our producer-director. NewsNM.com. NewsNM.com is our website. We stream, we podcast, and we take feedback on the Newsmaker line, as we do each Tuesday. Marita Noon, she has a great website, energymakesamerica.org. Yes, I like the way she says org. You do org very well, Marita. And now, how you doing with your new Tesla? That new electric car it only costs $104,000, but man, is that a running car?
Such a deal.
Such a deal. Everybody should buy a $104,000 car. I like the way they look. I like them.
It isn't going to be me.
Which is the one, Marita, that if you discharge it completely, it becomes a brick?
That's the Tesla.
Oh, that's just so hard to accept that.
I mean, if
energy makes the Tesla go, and lack of energy makes it a brick.
You know, they were going to make the Tesla here in New Mexico. I recall a few years ago attending a luncheon with the Albuquerque Economic Development Organization, and they had the people there from Tesla, and they were going to make the Tesla here in New Mexico because the state was going to give them some perks, for locating here and so forth. But somehow California gave them a better deal.
Yes.
How's that working out?
Yeah, how's that working out for everybody? No, they really are. They were supposed to make 5,000 of them this year, and they finally admitted they're only going to do a couple thousand. So financially, they're pretty much up against it. They have manufactured an interesting car. The problem is, after all the money they've poured into it, the cost of the car is still well above anything that normal Americans can pay for a car.
Yeah, and that's the same with the Fisker. Those are the two electric cars that candidate Romney talked about in the debate when he talked about President Obama picking losers. And he mentioned
I thought he was talking Biden.
Really in much worse shape than the Tesla.
When he said that, I thought he was talking Biden. Loser. But no, he was talking about the Solyndras and all the rest of those.
Green energy.
Now, right now, there was some woman in the Albuquerque Journal that got a nasty shock, because P&M has to add the green energy charge to bills, and this person got a nasty shock and said, "What's this extra money for?" And P&M said, "We've been made to do this by the legislature." Also,
and surprise, News New Mexico listeners knew about that a month ago, huh?
Yeah, and this woman,
we talked about it.
Yeah, this woman was irate about it, but hey, you're talking to the wrong people when you're talking to P&M. They would rather buy their power from Palo Verde. They'd rather buy it for 6, 7, 8 cents a kilowatt hour. They don't want to buy it at 45 cents a kilowatt hour, but they're made to do so by the legislature.
Yep, by the Renewable Portfolio Standard that our state legislature passed. I believe it was in 2007, if I recall correctly, and that mandates that we have a certain amount of electricity from renewable sources. So P&M has kind of got their hands tied on that. The legislature says you must produce this, and so P&M sets about doing it, but it costs more money. And I'm personally very pleased, and I know Commissioner Pat Lyons, who I happened to be with last night at the New Mexico Oil and Gas Association meeting, he told me back at the time that this happened that he had fought specifically to get that line item put on the bills, and that the environmentalists opposed him vehemently. They fought him on getting this line item put on the bills because, as you know, it's difficult to brag about wind and solar being free when there's a line item on your bill for it.
And it's a big number. It's not a good number. Now, help me understand this. You like popcorn, don't you?
Sure.
Can you taste the difference popcorn made with green energy or popcorn made with nuclear energy or coal? Do you get a taste difference there?
No, you and I know well that a kilowatt is a kilowatt. And when I first got into doing this energy work, I asked the people that know. Now, help me understand here. Does a kilowatt know its DNA?
No, it doesn't.
No, and that's why a kilowatt's a kilowatt. It doesn't make any difference where it came from as far as how that individual kilowatt works. However, it does make a difference in how it works on a cost basis or how it works on a 24/7, 365 basis.
And of course, we have Bob Endlich here, who's a meteorologist and climate specialist, and he drives people crazy because if they ask him a question about global warming, which we're not asking right now, Bob, but if you ask Bob about global warming, he has reams and reams of data, charts. You know, he will show you that it is a hoax.
Well, and the other thing is this idea that the wind energy is free. Well, it turns out maybe not quite so much because, you know, when the wind peaks is like in the afternoon, like the early afternoon.
Yep.
And that's not when the peak load is.
That's a meteorological phenomenon that you know.
That's right. Because I used to have to forecast the crosswinds at the high energy laser test facility. But the point is that when the winds come up is in the early afternoon, and then when people go home and turn on their microwave to
make popcorn,
Yeah, make that popcorn.
The wind energy is not there, and they've got to fire up the gas generator in order to cover the load. Isn't that right, Marita?
It is. That's very correct. You know, it's interesting. I was up in Santa Fe, as I mentioned yesterday, at the New Mexico Oil and Gas Association meeting, and I was staying at a friend's home that has solar hot water. And he said to me, now, when you go to take a shower in the morning, he said, let the water run for a while first because we have to wait for the gas heater to kick in.
Marita Noon, we're going to have more with her. Energy Makes America Great. To get that solar water out of there and get the real hot water.
You're listening to News New Mexico, where it is understood that whenever you see a successful business, someone once made a courageous decision.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
There's a lot of rate payers talking like that. We're News New Mexico. It's October 9th. Bob Endlich's here. I'm Michael Swicker, talking with Marita Noon, EnergyMakesAmericaGreat.org. So, Marita, picking losers. The president, you know, somebody said to me, Barack Obama is the worst politician I've ever seen. And I said, no, I will not take that. There's Joe Biden. He's worse. All right, so your column in townhall.com, and we posted on ours, talks about you pick the losers. Tell us about that.
Well, it's based on Romney's comment in the debate about President Obama picking the losers, and he talked about the $90 billion that the president spent on green energy projects, and he listed two that had gone bankrupt, Solyndras and Renewable. And as you know, my column from last week, I addressed the companies that had received these stimulus funds but had gone bankrupt, which included, of course, Solyndras, which is only the best known, and Renewable that Romney mentioned, and it also included 13 other companies that most people are not aware of that have gone bankrupt. And then this week's column, I talked about the 20 companies, including Fisker and Tesla, that Romney mentioned in the debate, that have received stimulus funds, but yet are troubled in one way or another. And it's an interesting list to look at. The funds come from a variety of different kind of government programs, but all have stimulus connections. So that's the common denominator on this particular list.
Marita Noon is talking to us about problems in the green energy business. Now, Romney's a turnaround guy. You know, he went in and helped Staples and a lot of companies. You know, if he was really being a wise guy, which I guess he's trying not to be, he'd say to the president, Mr. President, you know, I could actually turn these things around, you know.
I'm not sure about that, Michael, because the problem with green energy is that there's no real business there. Like I was talking about the wind.
Yeah.
The wind peaks. And you gotta, and then the wind dies off at sundown. So when the load comes up, you know, Marita was talking about us humans. We want to flip the switch and instantly have the light come on, and green energy does not do that, and we can't store it.
Well, there's a time and a place for green energy, right, Marita?
Well, there are certainly off-grid uses, as I like to say that the oil field is one of the single largest users industry-wise of solar panels. And they use, in the oil field, there's a lot of solar panels that are used to run the equipment, that especially the monitoring computer equipment out in the oil field. So certainly there is a place for it. I'm not suggesting that we totally eliminate wind or solar power. Well, maybe wind, but solar power, it has a certainly use. I live out in the East Mountains outside of New Mexico, and a lot of homes in my neighborhood have gates, and a lot of them have their gates powered by solar panels.
Yes, yeah. And we, out in the ranch south of Carrizozo, there is a place where we've always thought this would be a great place to put a house, but it's a couple miles from the nearest power line, and we would probably look at the money it would take to run electricity out to it and think about the new technologies, and we might think a while before we put in a couple miles of line. But that's about the only places that I see where this stuff works. And unfortunately, people are trying to use it for a political reason, not for a power reason. When we come back, let's talk more with Marita Noon. She has a great website, energymakesamericagreat.org. More with Marita Noon in just a minute. 22 minutes past the hour. We're News New Mexico.
You're listening to News New Mexico, where we try to help New Mexico businesses every single day.
Ferris Bueller, you're my hero.
No, it's Marita Noon. You're my hero, Marita Noon, because you're trying to somehow get the price of power down to where we can thrive as a society. I'm Michael Swick. Got Bob Endlich here talking to Marita Noon, energymakesamericagreat.org. Marita, if we took the politics out of energy and we were just having an efficiency model, we could, the people out in California right now are up at $5 a gallon because they have to have a special political blend of fuels. And we could actually cut, I don't want to say an exact number, but we could really cut the cost of fuel, all kinds of power, if we took all the politics out of it, right?
We most certainly could. In fact, Mitt Romney, we were talking about before the break, when you were talking about he's a turnaround guy and what would he do in turning things around. Well, he came out in August strongly opposing the production tax credit for wind energy. And he came out saying, we need to quit this picking the winners and losers, basically, and allowing the free market to work. And so he is in favor of allowing those production tax credits for wind energy to expire, as they will naturally do on December 31st of this year.
Well, we got ethanol, and ethanol is so problematic because we make our food significantly more expensive, and ethanol doesn't burn with the same number of BTUs as regular gasoline. So we do like all these bad things for political reasons, and I just wish we could get away from doing bad energy policy.
Well, I most certainly wish we could get away from bad energy policy as well. And one of the things that I find most interesting about it, about the ethanol, that most people don't realize, is when the Congress made the ethanol mandates back whenever that took place, they made it based on an assumption that we as a country would continue to use more and more and more gasoline. And in fact, due to the bad economy and due to higher fuel efficiencies, we are actually using less gasoline, but the mandates require that they keep producing a certain number of bushels, or however it's measured, of corn that goes to ethanol. So we kind of have an ethanol glut because the law mandates they keep producing more corn every year, more corn every year, more corn every year that goes to ethanol.
And there are vehicles, of which I happen to own one, that do not like ethanol. And I have a 98 Grand Marquis, Mercury Grand Marquis, that just hates it. And luckily, I found that I could buy some real gasoline, no ethanol in it, in southern New Mexico at one place. And now the Grand Marquis is back to running normal. But
well, I'm so happy for you.
Yeah, I just cannot believe that what we've got is we've got people that are putting us through the corn picker, as we say in Iowa, for a political reason, not for an energy reason.
There's also, I've seen where the mandate's going to go up to 15% ethanol now, and there's been no testing of
how bad that will be, how corrosive it will be.
Exactly, because water likes to accumulate in the ethanol, and that the water in your fuel system doesn't do miracles, Michael.
No. Marita Noon has a great website, energymakesamericagreat.org. She spends a lot of her time talking to radio and TV. I'm so glad she talks to us every Tuesday. Thanks so much, Marita.
My pleasure. Thanks, guys.
All right. You can catch her on townhall.com. She's a regular columnist. Also, we do stuff, and you can go to, again, energymakesamericagreat.org. We are News New Mexico.